Scottie, my man, is anybody still doubting John Calipari? I wonder.
No, the haters are pretty silent, I would say, Curtis. I think we're even silent at this point.
My goodness. It's 9:19 at night, and Arkansas just landed the best transfer in the portal. How about that? A day after landing a top 10 transfer and an all-SEC forward in Jonas Adu out of Tennessee, John Calipari goes out and he gets a commitment from the number one ranked transfer in the country. Folks, Florida Atlantic star guard Johnell Davis is headed to Arkansas. Jeff Goodman was the first to put that out there, and it's just been picking up and spreading like wildfire. Yeah. This is massive, massive news. We said that last night, and it was true. We say it again tonight, and it's doubly true. This is huge, huge stuff for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we talked, I think, was it last night? We were talking about Jonas Adu. These days are running together, Curtis.
I'm pretty sure that was last night. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, we were talking. I think one of my favorite things about the Adu pickup was that it made this team older, because you got the three freshmen, and then Big Z is going to be a sophomore next season. So it was nice to just add, a little bit of experience. Didn't matter, front court, back court, wherever. But in back-to-back days, you've added, veteran. As of right now. I mean, you added more than just veteran players. This is like best players available in the portal.
Yes.
But you've added like a cornerstone piece in the backcourt to go with the guy that can, probably be a cornerstone piece in the front court, unless you just add, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or somebody out of the portal. Like he's
put it past that man, Cal. Now.
Yeah, no doubt. But just one of the. I mean, Nelly is he's one of the more intriguing players I think in the country, and has been for a couple of years. And I think he put the country on notice during FAU's tournament run to the Final Four a couple of years ago, and then this past season he upped basically all of his numbers in like every category. It's massive. And shout out to you for back in February, late February, maybe mid-February, for saying, hey, you got some NIL money to work with. This is my $1 million man. And I don't have any doubt about it that he's probably Arkansas's latest $1 million man. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, man,
I don't think you can understate how massive this is. Where do you think this projects Arkansas now? Just like as Arkansas's roster stands, if you fill it out with some competent pieces, and I think you probably still maybe need to fill some gaps at some certain positions, just to maybe bolster those spots. But I would expect this is going to be a splash that has the national heads. They probably got Arkansas in that top 20. They're way too early top 25s now. They really do, and they're probably comfortably in it.
Yeah, I mean, as they absolutely should. When I think about it, just looking at what the lineup could be right now, I mean, you're probably looking at Boogie Fland, Johnell Davis, Carter Knox, Big Z, and Jonas Adu, with Billy Richmond coming off the bench. I mean, that in and of itself is that's a top 25-ish kind of lineup, right? I mean, that's an NCAA tournament kind of lineup right there. I think that's hard to ignore, and they're not done yet. I mean, there's still half a roster to fill out, and maybe we'll talk about in a few minutes, just, maybe what they need to really fill this thing out. I was thinking about earlier tonight, I think they're maybe 3-ish legit pieces away from being like a serious contender. But I mean, they're well on their way. I mean, there's not that many game changers in the transfer portal every year. I mean, they're really good players who can step in for you and start and play a big role, but guys who just change the trajectory and the dynamic of a program, there's not that many. Maybe there's only 2 or 3 this year, and Johnell Davis is one of them. I mean, Arkansas has its go-to guy at this point. And listen, still work to be done, right? I mean, he's got to withdraw from the draft process and everything, but this was expected that if he was coming back to college, that he'd come and do it at Arkansas. And it's just going nuts tonight on that front. But it's an elite guard with elite experience, like you said. I mean, I think it was February 7th, if I remember back when we were, Arkansas stunk. And so we were doing our, like hypotheticals and talking about transfer portal and the offseason, because that's all people wanted to hear about. And you were absolutely right. I mean, I think I said, if I had 7 figures to throw to one person in NIL, it would be to Johnell Davis. Did John Tyson tune in for that episode? I don't know, or somebody else. Who knows? But Arkansas appears to be getting its $1 million man, and I think he's going to be worth every penny of it. I mean, this is a dude who's going to be a preseason All-American next season. I mean, go ahead and book it. That's just what we're dealing with here. He averaged 18.2 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 2.9 assists, 1.4 steals for an FAU team that went to the tournament last season. And he was efficient while he did it as a lead guard and a prominent player. 48.3% on high volume from the field. That's really good for a guy taking as many shots as he does. 41.4% on 58 made threes. That's really good. Arkansas hasn't had a guy do that in a while. 85.7% from the charity stripe on a guy who can draw fouls and get to the line. There's a reason why he was the American Athletic Conference Player of the Year. And last season, like you mentioned, this is a guy who was a key cog on that FAU team that made it Cinderella run and went all the way to the Final Four. So, I mean, it's an incredible turn of events. When we think back to a couple weeks ago where Arkansas didn't have any players or maybe just Big Z, and we were wondering what this thing was going to look like. And it's just really taken off, and it's been impressive. It's been a hell of a lot of fun to follow so far. Yeah. Maybe we need to just give credit where it's due, Scottie, and give a shout out to Michigan. Right?
Their admissions office, right?
Yeah, I mean, like firing Juwan Howard, poaching Dusty May from FAU, having ridiculous admission standards and making all this possible. So salute to you. Hey, cheers to you, Michigan, for the work that you've done. We appreciate it. But no, it's crazy, man. There are teams out there, Scottie, who are making power moves. It ain't just Arkansas, but I'd love someone to show me a better, back-to-back portal splash, a better 24 hours than Jonas Adu and Nelly Davis. I mean, it's staggering, man.
Yeah, it really is. And I was thinking back to, didn't really want to do this, but I mean, like Eric Musselman got Terrence Williams today. Arkansas got Nelly Davis today. Kentucky got Brandon Garrison. It's just, I don't know. I think we can see who right now is competing for the top players in the country. I think Terrence Williams is a nice player, but I think like Terrence Williams was an Eric guy when Eric was the coach here that we identified. It was like he might take a shot on him. And then, like Nelly is the guy like in our dreams that would probably happen. Eric's gone. Cal comes in. He's changing the game with Arkansas recruiting. And it's really unreal. I've got a story now, an analysis piece on what Nelly's going to bring to the table at Arkansas. I wanted to just read a couple of these quotes and shout out to Nick Wilson. Actually, we communicated back and forth last week while we were down doing our tour to Central Arkansas. I remember, I think were we driving home, and I got that feedback from Nick, and then I was like, Curtis, this is a lot. Can you read it? And then
yes, yeah.
by the time you finished reading it, it was I think we both had like chills. We were just ready for Nelly to get on over here. One of the things that stood out from what Nick said was, quote, his game flows. And I think Calipari will make the most of a seasoned guard that can play any style of offense. And so I think that's the first thing that people should probably understand about Nelly is that he's got pro level qualities as an offensive player. Maybe the vertical game is probably it's not really him. Not super explosive, but the dude is efficient and he can play just about any way you want him to. And he's a guy that if you need him to, or if, there is no coach on the sideline and he's the coach on the floor, and he wants to run P&R with his, best rolling big man or popping big man, he can do that. And he can be super efficient doing it, or he can, just play his part in an offense and shoot 41.4% from deep on 27% usage, which is it's insane. But he's a guy that you just look at his numbers and you can see that he doesn't have many bad games, and that's something else that Nick told me I thought was really interesting. Like he'll have stretches where he doesn't play well, but he will not put together a full bad game. like he's going to get it going at some point. Can be the offense or can play in an offense. I probably think that you want him on the ball quite a bit, just because he's such a playmaker, right?
Yep.
But I think he can also play off the ball. I'm not saying stash him in a corner and just tell him to stand there like the Suns do with Kevin Durant sometimes, but he's a interesting kid. And then a lot of people hear me talk about these guys' offensive games a lot, but Nick was like, he's more than capable defensively, really active hands in the lane.
Average a steal and a half over his career.
Yeah, and he had he trailed only Elijah Martin and Vlad Golden on FAU's roster in terms of defensive rating last season among like FAU players that played a lick, So he's more than capable on that end. He likes to get out and run too. So, everybody like Johnell Davis did not need any introduction, and that's how I started that analysis piece. But for those who might be a little bit unfamiliar, and maybe their only reference point on Nelly is that 18.9 turnover loss to Northwestern in the NCAA tournament, they might be wondering, kind of what's coming.
Not his best.
Yeah, not his best. But again, I will say this too, and I'll quit yapping. He had 97 turnovers last season. Nick Wilson told me that he estimated probably about half of those were on Nelly's teammates, like just not being ready for a pass or straight up dropping feeds to them. So he thinks if Nelly gets here and he's got some pieces around him, he wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy with a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio type of player.
Now, how about this? I think what stands out to me the most from all this is that apparently Coach Cal just snuck this man in for a visit over the weekend and nobody knew. Like, I understand, like, it's one thing, like Jonas Adu, Brandon Garrison, like those guys, you're going to see them walking around. They're huge. But to get a guy like Nell, everybody knew that this dude is the number one player in the portal, recognizable guy, and you got your eyes peeled because we just thought that they might be bringing in some other visitors. We didn't know who it was. How the heck did they do it? Like, how did they get this man on campus in and out without anybody knowing what happened? That's crazy. Cal's a gangster, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he moves in silence for real. He really does.
Who else has he brought in that we don't know about? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Jordan Burks.
Sure.
Maybe. Like, didn't you say that he was like on Big Z's IG story or something like that? Or he had an IG story with like some shorts that looked like what Z was wearing to that softball game when he got introduced?
That was the scuttlebutt. Yeah. So,
right? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, he is. Nelly is, I guess maybe to us, he's recognizable. You know what I mean?
That's true. But yeah, that's true.
Then again, that's why I kind of started that story. It was like people who follow the sport closely. I don't need to introduce Johnell Davis to anybody, but like for those who might be a little bit unfamiliar or only saw him, when he was a good piece on that Final Four team, or maybe only like that in that Northwestern game. Like FAU is in the last couple of years, it's become this thing in college basketball, but I don't know that a whole lot of people are probably tuning in to watch FAU, like just the casuals, you know what I mean? Right. I'm not calling people in Fayetteville casuals at all, but like, it's just, it's tough that he came and went and we just, we're just unaware. It's wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. I think about the times I watched FAU this year, and it was, bits and pieces with you in the Bahamas. They were playing Texas A&M in one of those MTE things. Watched them play. Ooh, that's pretty good. Watched them play Arizona, and that's where I think I either tweeted or I texted you guys during that Arizona game, and I said Nelly Davis is the best guard in the country. He just took over. We watched the highlights of that earlier today, and he was just incredible. And they tried everybody on him. They had Pella Larson on him, Caleb Love. The big kid that they got from San Diego State, how they play defense. Like, they put everybody on him. It didn't matter. He was backing guys down, hitting turnaround faders, getting to the rim, knocking down threes. It was absurd, that game. And then, in the AAC, a lot of times they would be on like CBS Sports or whatever on Sunday afternoons. Because I would catch a lot of them or Memphis or whoever, they'd be playing Tulane or something, and you'd be able to catch them. But yeah, and then you just think back to the Final Four run, and what's crazy about it, I mean, it's kind of like the JD Note arc in a way. He was sixth man of the year in whatever conference FAU was in last year, Conference USA maybe. And it's like he came off the bench and he was still probably their best player on that team last year. And then they move up to the AAC, and he just, like you said, man, just every piece of his, statistical profile just improved, and he became a guy, an absolute dude, and won league player of the year. And well, it's a good one, man. I mean, I think that was the next piece. I mean, and people were a little cranky this morning, as we expected, after we talked about Jonas Adu. Like when we wrapped that show last night, we were saying how long before people start getting cranky, wanting another commitment, right? And then Brandon Garrison, he pops for Kentucky, which was admittedly kind of a weird choice. I mean, great get for Kentucky. I mean, you'd love to have him, but people were kind of like, well, like, what the heck? What's next? What's going on? It's awfully quiet. I'm like, you just got a top 10 transfer in the portal, like, and then you slept and you woke up. What do you mean it's quiet? But so I'm glad this happened today, man. And they were able to just carry the momentum, and we'll see where it takes them. But there's just something to be said for accolades and everything aside, and the stats and being a go-to guy, whatever. To me, there's just something to be said about having a veteran in your backcourt who's played in a Final Four. I mean, it's immeasurable. And you think about some of the struggles that Kentucky's had, and Cal has had the last few years in the NCAA tournament. And a lot of it's because, they're young and inexperienced, and those types of moments hit different. He ain't gonna be fazed by it. And that's exactly what you need. And so all of a sudden, you think about those anchors, and you've got a guard who's been in the Final Four in Johnell Davis, and you've got a big man who was, a win away from getting to the Final Four this year, who's played in some huge games in Jonas Adu, and then all these pieces that you're putting around him. It's just it's a great foundation, man.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The house don't fall if the bones are good, right? And they're strong, they're strong in the backcourt, they're strong in the front court. To this point, like you've got some really exciting young pieces in that backcourt, and then you just bolster it, and take it to like a different stratosphere. It feels like I don't know that I can really overstate the enormity of this, but it's so huge for your backcourt, and it's so huge for the leadership of your team, because now you've got a guy in the front court in Adu who's got Elite Eight experience, second team All SEC guy, All SEC defensive team guy, and then a guy in your backcourt. Like you've got a voice in both groups, right? And then those two guys, the success that they've experienced at previous schools, they're like-minded, and like where they want to go, what they want to get accomplished. And those guys want to get to the end. Like everybody on this roster feels like they can get to the NBA, and right now I'm not putting it past anybody to get to the NBA on this Arkansas roster, scholarship player wise. But it's enormous. But like you mentioned, it's invaluable having a guard, a guy that can be on the ball all the time, who's got Final Four experience, and is used to playing in really big moments. Like, say what you want about, really the only huge game that Nelly had during that Final Four run was against FDU, but in the tournament, you can only play who's in front of you, like it wasn't, he should have played Purdue, but Purdue didn't hold up its end of the deal. So he had to go roast Fairleigh Dickinson and ruin the end of their season, So, but yeah, like he's a guy that, played great against the best competition that he faced. And we went back and watched in the office earlier today when we thought this thing might pop earlier, just that game he had against Arizona. It was unbelievable. And then there was that triple overtime game against, who was it, UTSA, where he brought the boys back from down 20, and he goes for like a casual 30-something and 9 boards, and
no big deal.
Yeah, just like, and say what you want, like it's UTSA coming back to win a game on the road there, but this kid's tough, dude. He's tough as nails. And he's a guy that shoots almost 50% on the usage that he has. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. And let's talk about Cal for just a second here. I mean, it's just so fascinating to me the way he's operating right now, because the narrative was, as soon as he took the Arkansas job, it was, well, it's about the program and not the coach. And then he flips, three of those guys in the class. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure he would like to have acquaintance, but that's a pretty good haul to get Boogie and Carter Knox and Billy Richmond right away. And then it was, well, yeah, but he's been struggling with with getting the young guys, and he doesn't work the transfer portal or whatever. And then within 24 hours, he gets two of the top 10 transfers in the country. And so what's the narrative now? Like, what do people have to say now? Because the knocks are going to keep on coming, and he's just going to keep on building this thing. If I was the competition, and I only say this half jokingly, I would shut the hell up. I probably would, because you keep saying what this man can't do and what he's not going to do, and he just continues to go out there and do it. So maybe just go silent. That way he stops being motivated to cook you, because that's exactly what he's doing right now. And I get it. Kentucky's been talented, and then they lost to Oakland, or they lost to St. Peter's or whoever. Yeah, that's true. All those things are true. But you aren't playing the games right now. You're building the roster. You're putting the team together, and Arkansas is going to have a team that's going to be just as talented, if not more talented, than anybody out there. And that's the first step, man. And you take it from there. So the early returns are pretty damn solid for Coach Cal so far. He's been impressive.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, what is the narrative now, right? Like, you remember when Eric first got here, and it's transfer portal, and then he goes out and gets 3 Burger Boys, and then I pull out, that meme where the guy's got the knife in his hand, and there's the guy that's doing like this.
Yeah,
and I made it to where I put Eric Musselman over the guy with the knife, and then he can't recruit the high school kids, in quotes, over the guy that's covering himself up. I'm gonna have to do that with Cal, but with the portal. I think that's what I'm gonna have to do now. Also reserve that meme for when John Rothstein does a 1 month long countdown until the calendar turns to March. But I get good mileage out of that meme. But yeah, I might have to fire. I got to get in the meme game like you and John. I'm slipping a little bit in that.
No,
Cal's been impressive. Like, think about it, dude. Like, he just went out and nabbed in back-to-back days 2 of the top 4 available transfers in the portal. Back-to-back days.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other schools around the country that have Clark Slackert and Bryce Pope.
Exactly. So, yeah, Google it if you want to know who that is.
Arkansas is in a good place.
Yeah, they're doing just fine, man. But like we said, there's still half a roster to be built. Like, this thing ain't over, and it's exactly what we said last night. I mean, the whole country, but the SEC in particular, because we're focused on that. It's an arms race, man. I mean, it really is. And take Kentucky. No shade at Kentucky. I mean, I think they've done a really nice job early on in the portal. I like some of the toughness and defensive-minded guards they got. I think Garrison's a great pickup for them. And they're closing in on a guy like Kobe Brea, and maybe they'll get Jackson Robinson. Like, they're going to have a nasty team. And Bama is bringing a lot of guys back, and they're hitting the portal, and they're bringing in reinforcements on that roster. So teams are just going to get better.
I like Ole Miss too. Like,
oh yeah,
it seemed like for a while there that Ole Miss was like getting everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was like a week, or 10 days to 2 weeks ago, but Chris Beard was cooking for a little while. It was like everybody that we liked early, and it was probably like final stages of Eric's tenure, early Cal. Like, are these guys going to cross over like Malik Dia, and Brown Jones? Like, those guys are going to be problems for a lot of teams. He's probably not done yet.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And so I think now that we're almost to the point where there's enough roster constructed to where we can at least kind of start looking at it and saying, these are probably the pieces that they need. Like, this is where they should add whatever. Like the Brandon Garrison deal, we talked about it with him going to Kentucky. I would have loved to have Brandon Garrison, but I do feel like it would have almost been an embarrassment of riches in the front court, especially at that center position. Like, you take him, you figure it out. Absolutely. But I think you now have the flexibility in terms of space and probably finances if he got the type of NIL deal at Kentucky that was being reported, to have a better roster build. And so you still got, well, they have 6 guys now, so 7 scholarship openings if you want to use them. I think they'll probably use at least, 4 or 5 of those. But I think you're about 3 pieces away, and I'm curious to see what you think about this from a legit, deep enough Final Four type of contending team. I think you still need a starting 4-man.
Yeah.
And my goodness, I mean, there's some options. I mean, Kason Pryor, Norshad O'Meara, who all of a sudden Arkansas is, connected with. We'll see if he winds up going to St. John's like people expected, but we spent a lot of time watching him today. JT Toppin, who's, I mean, if you guys aren't familiar with JT Toppin, and I apologize because I was unfamiliar with his game, but watching a lot of his film this morning and just going through his numbers and his bio and his accolades, this dude's ridiculous. Out of the Mountain West, out of New Mexico. Dylan Mitchell, a guy that we've been talking about from Texas. Arthur Kaluma, former Creighton. Where was he at this past? Kansas State. He's entered the portal. Yeah, but he's also doing the draft. Same thing with Coleman Hawkins. Maybe those guys wind up going pro. Maybe they go play college ball, whatever. But there's so many options there for that starting 4-man. Nab one of these guys to kind of pair with an Adu and a Big Z in the front court. And I think you're really, really cooking at the 4 or 5. But when I think about starters, the 4 spot is the one that really jumps out to me. And I think they're going to add more than one starting level guy from here on out. It's like, I don't want to be misconstrued, but like I can talk myself into Boogie Flan, of course, like running the point, or even one of those wings starting, a Carter Knox. You can talk me into Carter Knox starting at the 3 if you got a Johnell Davis and an Adu and other guys around him. But the 4 is kind of that spot where I'm like, yeah, they really need to go get a dude right there. And there's a ton of options.
Yeah, there really is. And I think Kason Pryor is he's a name that I've liked, for, ever since I've realized that Arkansas contacted him. Favorite players, Kevin Durant plays, I'm not going to say he plays just like him, but I think that there's some KD to him a little bit, and that, he likes to 6'10" guy plus that, likes to put the ball on the floor, let it eat from deep too. And he'll he gives you a bucket, he'll let you know about it. I think he brings a lot of dog type stuff that you want. The other guys, I think that, I think they need another 3.
Definitely.
And I think that, it wouldn't be the worst thing if that kid could shoot it at least at like a 35% clip. Like
I had when I wrote down that I thought they were 3 pieces away in my notes, and I had a starting 4-man, and the next thing I wrote down was knockdown shooter on the wing.
Yeah.
Just somebody with a strap.
Yeah, I think you need that. And you know what that would do is it would free up Nelly even more, because it's a guy that grabs attention away from him. And then if you've got another, you're going to have some nice players out there. Just guys that can pull attention from other players is what opens up the floor for everybody and lets them really get into their offensive bags. And, I think you can start realizing some potential in guys if you put them on the floor with the right pieces that fit together and complement each other.
Right.
I do think you need a shooter. Who that is, I just don't know. I was looking at our portal board earlier. Arkansas contacted reportedly Elijah Saunders from San Diego State. It seems like he could be maybe like a depth 4.
Yeah.
You know what
Like
I mean?
if Jordan Burks is your depth wing, then this guy could be your depth 4,
sure.
Small ball lineup kind of dude. Yeah.
Yeah, his numbers are not eye popping at all, but he's got that Reggie Chaney build, 6'8", 225. Is a guy that took a bunch of shots, combined. I think he took 59 in the lane, but he's a guy that can stretch the floor for you too, like 39% from the top of the key, 43.5% on okay volume from the right wing. So 6'8", 225 that can stretch it a little bit. Maybe is that ideal for a backup floor or for a backup 4? It's not all that a different look. It's just, different player types if you're talking
Sure.
about Z and this kid. But man, who else are we looking at? Looking at Nelly, Kaderi Richmond. That seems like
Maybe a stretch.
yeah, it
Yeah.
really does. I was looking more into him today, and I don't know, man. He took a lot of shots last year.
Right.
He's like a low 40% from the field type of guy on volume, but he does a lot of stuff. And we talked about it. Like, he's a guy that we probably have to watch a full game on him instead of just like that college basketball scouting tape, because he just
Sure.
does so many things.
His box scores are absurd.
Yeah, they're crazy. It's like 15, 9, 6, 3, and 3 guy almost every night. Wooga Poplar. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if that what is it, a life wallet money is running short, come on
Exactly.
down. That's a guy
Just get him and his boy Norshad Omir in here, and let's just call it an off season.
Yeah, you're
And
set.
let's just be done with it.
Yeah, just focus on like quality depth pieces that, when these guys get a breather, the game doesn't avalanche on them.
Right. And the other thing I think they could really benefit from, and I could go either way with how they wanted to approach this, and Nelly Davis can do it. Don't get me wrong, but I think they need an experienced veteran ball handler to take pressure off Boogie. And so, like, if you want to hand the keys to Boogie and surround him by a bunch of, older, experienced, talented dudes, great. I'm all for that. But I think you need some experience there at that lead guard position in the backcourt. And so whether that needs to be a starting one and you work him in, or, a guy who's more of a platoon type player, role type player, I don't know, don't care. But I do think that they would benefit from having something like that. So, my thought, like, if I had to order it, I would say go find your shooter and think about, some of the guys that Cal's brought in the past, like oh my goodness, what was his name? CJ Frederick, like a guy like that, right? To kind of come in and be that wing shooter, get one of these dudes at the power 4 spot, because again, naming those names, there's just so many of them. I feel like you could go get one. Kason Pryor, Norshad Omir, JT Toppin, Dylan Mitchell, Arthur Kaluma, Coleman Hawkins. I mean, there's so many guys out there. So I would maybe focus my funds on that. Get one of those, under the radar guys who's got a strap that can come in and play 15, 18 minutes on the wing, and then get yourself a veteran guard for the backcourt. And that might be conservative given what Arkansas is doing. We talked about Wooga Poplar as a guy that, and it's a guy that Arkansas has been in contact with, a guy that they like. DJ Wagner still smoke there. And he's no bum, and so there's a lot of options there right now. Still guys who are entering the portal. But one dude I wanted to ask you about, because he doesn't necessarily fit the profile of dudes that maybe we've identified here, but I think we're both pretty high on him, is Adut Thiero.
Yeah.
And, I know
something to work with that jump shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, North Carolina had him in on a visit, so I'm sure that they're a tough competition there. Pitt is kind of the hometown school, but Cal flew out there, and I get it. He was eating it. What was the name of that place?
Serafino's.
Him and Chin Coleman were grubbing out at Serafino's, but the word on the streets is that Thiero is one of the guys that they have popped in and visited with there. Again, like he doesn't qualify as the knockdown shooter or the starting 4-man, or I guess kind of the experienced ball handler, but I don't know. I feel like that's just a piece that you go get if you can.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, we're talking about these, a potential shooter. I mentioned, I think, Chaz Lanier last night. Maybe that's wishful thinking, because he seems like a name that's picking up a lot of traction. I think it was Jamie Shaw at On3 today said that there's like varying levels of interest from several different programs, including Arkansas. But I think the name that was, had the most momentum as of this morning when I read it was like a Tennessee. Look, if I'm Chaz Lanier, I'm noticing that Darlin Stone Dubar is going to have the rock a lot, and he's going to be putting up a lot of shots. He could probably be looking at Arkansas and be like, Nelly is too, but Nelly shares a thing too. Nelly will share it. He'll set you up to shoot 40
Just catch
plus
the
percent
pass.
again. Yeah, just catch the pass. Yeah, for sure. Lanier was a guy that shot, almost 44% against D1 teams last year, 60% on twos. He's just, top 15 in the country in like true shooting percentage. So I'm surprised that it's taken me until like the last few days to figure out this guy was a guy.
Yeah.
But I think his recruitment's like really, really picking up. It seems like I think he would be like fantasy world dream fit. I think it's Chaz Leonard because he fits like that mold too of like he's not 6 foot flat and he's not as thin as I used to be. He's like 6'4", 200 pounds, and him and Nelly next to each other is not just a ton of difference.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You want to get to the comments? You want to get to the chat? It's 10 o'clock. We might as well just get to the chat and get out of here. Man, people are really pumped up about this. Sometimes it kind of depends on when these things happen. Like sometimes we'll go live just right away. Sometimes we like to schedule it and let it simmer for a minute. Like we'll put out our stories, give it 5 or 10 minutes, let people start hopping on the YouTube and then go. And the chat was crap. I mean, we probably had, I don't know, 3-4 dozen, and I mean that, comments before we even went live. And we were only like, how long were we talking to each other? Like 4 or 5 minutes before we actually hit go live on this thing. So people are pumped about it, man. Some funny stuff in here. We got some mucho buenos in here. So it's Arkansas fans are happy. Just remember this. Okay. Like, do we really need to wake up, at 8 o'clock in the morning with people upset saying it's too quiet around here? I mean, this is good. I think you should let this marinate for at least 24 hours. I think you should get through Wednesday. And then maybe, I don't know, let's go ahead and pick up a Jordan Burks or somebody, one of those guys, maybe on Thursday, maybe get something cool going into the weekend and see if people can be, just tide it over for the weekend. Focus on baseball. The baseball team's really good. We know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, word has it that they're, up for like maybe the best team in the country. So.
Yeah. Come on now.
It's a pretty good time. Like Arkansas football is even picking up transfer portal commitments. They've got 6 now. After they got a guy who's got a quarterback that's got a completion rate at smooth 100% for his career. So baseball team killing it. Cal's killing it. It's it's pretty solid right now.
Exactly. I love this right here. Bohannon, he just says the vibes are immaculate. They are. I mean, they really, it's hard to beat these right now. It's again, like we always love portal season, and it was a lot of fun under Muss, and they obviously had some really good players, and we're usually, when those rankings started coming out, they were top 10 in the, the portal halls or whatever. This just feels a little bit different. And I think with everything that's gone on, just with the season being disappointed, the way it went down with Muss, just where it was just weird, and you knew it was time for a change, and you felt, I don't know, like almost left at the altar or whatever. And then you get a guy like Cal in here. It's just been such a whirlwind, and you don't have a freaking team. And it just like, you're waiting on pins and needles to see what happens. And this thing's just growing every day. It's true, man. The vibes are good. And it's been
it
really
honestly makes me think back to, when Cal was sitting at the presser table with Hunter Yurichek, and Hunter got asked, what's your confidence that Cal can put together, a roster basically from scratch? And he was like, very. And then Cal's like, he's got a lot of confidence in me. Now I got to go do it. Dude, I mean, he's freaking done it to this point. Still some work to go. Maybe some spots that you can strengthen to make this thing, kind of the beast that you want it to be.
Yeah, for sure. Matthew Pinson says the stash is bringing the luck. I think it's here until the roster's full. I'm gonna have to talk to the wife about that, but I think we just got to keep them, man. So it is what it is. Momentum.
Like I said last night.
100% right, man. 100% right. When something's worked, when it ain't broke, you don't have to fix it. So we're gonna leave it alone. Logan Coker says, how far were you on your run, Curtis? Well, I left work a little bit early today, and we're strategic about this. I don't think that's what people don't understand, how well we communicate, Scottie. So I left a little bit early. I had a couple errands to run. I got back in time for you to handle your business with the kiddos and their games. And I went for a run, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it kind of like around the block. I feel like an idiot. My neighbors are probably looking out the window. It's like, it's like the 8th time this dude's ran around. Like, what is he doing? And why is he so slow and big? But at any rate, I didn't go that far because I was kind of thinking, I don't know, these things have usually been happening kind of between 6 and 7. So it was whatever. I came home. I was kind of waiting around, and then I was like, well, I got to cook dinner. But I didn't want to cook dinner too early. This was like 7:38, and I made dinner, and I had just given up on it for the night, honestly, and was like, whatever. Turned on an episode of The Sopranos, popped open a Busch Light, and then there we go. So we were ready for this one.
Yeah, dude, I'm so happy you're watching The Sopranos. Like that honestly has me happier than this 2-day run that Arkansas is on. If I'm being honest, I'm glad that we can come in to the office in the morning. I'll be like, all right, what's the Sopranos update? And then I can kind of go back to when I was going through my first run through it. But yeah, this recruiting stuff is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. D-Rex says, back the chicken truck up for Norshad now. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a Norchad O'Meara fan, even going back to his days at Arkansas State. He's got that Justin Smith build. This dude has played 4 seasons of college basketball, and he's averaged a double-double in all 4 seasons. That's really, really hard to do. And he has Final Four experience also. I don't know if people remember that or not, but Miami went to the Final Four 2 years ago. But this is a dude who he was very much like an undersized center, and everything was kind of around the rim, but his game's come a long way. He can put it on the floor a little bit now, attack closeouts, and now he's shooting threes. And it's not the prettiest looking thing in the world. His feet kind of fly out in front of him. He kind of leans into it a little bit, but he shot it almost
a little bit of a hitch at the top right before the release, which is kind of strange, but shoots it pretty well on top of the key.
Yeah, if you're just any kind of threat at all, like that's something that has to be respected. But he just strikes me as a dude who could play in a front court alongside an Adu, or in kind of an interchangeable role with Big Z as the 4 or 5, because both those guys can stretch the floor a little bit. But I think O'Meara is also a dude who would probably be a little bit better served to be maybe switchable, defend in space, guard somebody other than a big bruising center. Although he does get in a little bit of foul trouble. But no, I'd be all for that. I know Rick Pitino would absolutely love to have that man, and I know they got some funds to get that done. But I like hearing that Arkansas is trying to swoop in there and get involved. What do you think the conversations would be like between John Calipari and Rick Pitino talking about a recruiting battle? Speaking of Sopranos,
yeah, just watch an episode of Tony meeting somebody at Satriali's, and you got your answer.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, upstairs at the Bing, maybe.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. We had somebody ask if it was confirmed. I mean, for a minute there, we were wondering just because of the initial wording. The thing about Goodman, and also like credit to Jeff Goodman, because he's been killing it. Coaching carousel season, transfer portal season, like he's kind of leveled up, this in this off season. But he's got a really good relationship with those guys at FAU. It was the same thing with Charleston and Pat Kelsey and some of those other mid majors. The Field of 68 guys kind of hosted or sponsored one of those mid-major tournaments. I'm trying to remember who all was there. I know Charleston was in it. I know FAU was in it because they were interviewing Nelly Davis and some of those other guys every day. I can't remember who the other couple teams in there were, but they're familiar with those guys. The wording was a little bit weird because it was expected to sign with Arkansas or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, yeah, we all know that he's expected to do that. We've known that for a while. But then, yeah, I mean, it's gone nuts from that point. Tipton and On Three and all the nationalists, all the local guys, we've all been all over it here. So I hope that he, makes his own post. That's the only thing that I don't know. I get a little bit bothered sometimes because I love it when kids are able to make their own announcements. I feel a little bit less bad about it when it's transfers because they've kind of been there and done that before. A lot of times though, they leak it to, whoever, a Goodman, or, I mean, we're even seeing like Woj and Shams getting involved in in the transfer game now. Pete Thamel's breaking transfer news for basketball at times, which is interesting. But a lot of times it'll get leaked to a national guy and kind of go out from there. But just it's a good night, very good night. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're kind of on the same wavelength with Josh here. He says get one ace outside shooter, one jumbo wing / power forward, and we're all set. Yeah, I mean, I think you're just like we said, maybe three pieces away from being really, really good. And I mean, I think they already are, but
Yeah, for sure. It was FAU, Charleston, and Liberty in that field of 16.
Liberty. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Good on them. I guess the Liberty coach is probably still there, but yeah, I mean, Dusty May goes from FAU to Michigan. Pat Kelsey goes from Charleston to Louisville. And both of those guys are recruiting really well. That's always the thing when you elevate a mid-major guy to a high major program like that. It's never about their coaching acumen. It's like, can you recruit with the big dogs? And Louisville, from where they were to now, feels like Pat Kelsey's done a really good job. He's like a young Muss almost with his energy. And then Dusty May, I think it took him a little bit longer to get going, but even though they've got some challenges there with their admissions and everything. I mean, they got Vlad Golden. Did they get? Which one of those Auburn guys they get? It was either Aiden Holloway or the Donaldson kid. I can't remember which one.
I think it was Trey Donaldson.
Maybe that's right. Yeah, and they've got a lot of good pieces in there. So I think both those teams are going to be quite a bit improved. I was listening to the Ion College basketball podcast live this morning.
Yeah,
with Norlander and Parrish. Did you hear them when they were asking who would have the better roster when it was all said and done between Arkansas, Kentucky, Michigan, right? Was that I think it was Michigan they were talking about. Yeah. And I really do think an argument could be made for all of them, but I think the X factor, quite honestly, is John Calipari. And neither one of them thought it would be Arkansas, and they weren't sleeping on Arkansas. I even think Parrish said, like, I think they're all going to have, probably top 20-ish rosters when it's all said and done. But after getting Nelly Davis, I wish they would rehash that conversation because it's just such a game changer, man. It's even like that for me. I mean, I was just sitting back looking at it earlier today, and I even said, like, I mean, right now I feel like Kentucky's got the better roster than Arkansas. Like, I liked Arkansas's front court better, but I just looked at, three guards, as talented as they are, who've just never dribbled a basketball on a college floor, and then seeing, like a Lamont Butler who – he's not an offensive superstar, but he's multi-time defensive player of the year. Started in a national title game. Otega Owe, who's a big physical, defensive-minded guard. So I just I like their experience there. But if you ask me that now, my mind has changed. I mean, that's how good Nelly Davis is. And Kentucky's went and got Brandon Garrison since then. I just like where Arkansas is at now better.
Yeah,
kind of game changer they got.
Yeah, that's what, when we were talking about this, we said we were going to put a pin in this conversation and talk about Arkansas's and Kentucky's rosters every time, just like changed since then. But they've added Garrison, Arkansas has added Nelly, and I think like Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison are going to be pretty nice together.
That's a good defensive tandem, man.
I don't know that they're going to be able to make a shot outside of like 5 or 6 feet, but they'll be not fun to take the ball around the rim against. But I kind of liked initially just like the backcourt edge. I thought just it went to Kentucky because they've got like the older, muscles on top of muscles, and then they've got like the defensive tough guy and the kid from San Diego State, and then Otega always just he's pretty nice too. But you add Arkansas's youth with the know-how of Nelly. Yeah, it's edge Arkansas.
Exactly. And I also think about it from like a matchup standpoint. And that's what I was doing in my mind. I was thinking, man, I love Boogie Flan. I think he's going to be really good. But if you throw a dude like, Lamont Butler on him right away, that's tough, man. Again, that's a big physical veteran lockdown defender on a, freshman who needs to put on a little bit of weight. Well, now they wouldn't be able to do that because automatically that matchup goes to Nelly Davis. And then you've got who? The the kid, the freshman from BYU, or the Travis Perry kid, Garden Boogie, you know, so it changes things. It changes the dynamic a lot. So I'm excited to see how both of these teams wind up shaking out. They're both going to be good. They both are.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Obviously, but come on.
Lamont Butler is getting that defensive assignment on Nelly. I mean, and
100%.
That's been established already. We'll have to wait until the first game to see it.
Yeah, exactly. I like this from Kip. He says, love the haters saying, oh, those are nice names for Cal. Too bad he can't coach them. The hate is still strong from Kentucky or anywhere. But I do find that funny. I mean, and I get it. Like we're not naive to the struggles that Kentucky's had the last few years in the NCAA tournament. But it has been kind of interesting to me to see the way people just forgot who John Calipari is. This is an acting coach who's a Naismith Hall of Famer.
Right.
We just overlooking that. I mean, he's top 10 all time in wins in this sport, in the history of this sport, college basketball.
Yep.
And we're just ignoring that. I mean, come on now. Come on now.
People are silly.
Right. Let's see what else we got. Bush White. Yeah, I did. I did. I wasn't gonna let that thing go hot. Come on now.
Yeah, can't go wrong there.
That's a party foul, no matter what kind of breaking news is going on, right?
Absolutely.
I love this from Roy. He says Dick Vitale warned y'all to watch how John builds this roster. Dickie V still got it, man. He knows what's up. He absolutely knows what's up.
Yeah, you think that man's going to be in the building a couple times next season, if you had to guess?
Yeah, I hope so too, man. I really hope so. That'd be a lot of fun. Maybe he'd show some love instead of what the heck was he calling Moses Kingsley?
Kingsley Moses? You just saying his name backwards?
Something weird. Yeah, he's calling him something weird.
And I can't remember off the top of my head now.
Right. I like this from Darryl Williams. He's got that quote from I guess when the Boozer twins got interviewed, said ain't nothing changed about Coach Cal but the headquarters. And I saw another, I cannot remember the name of the recruit, but it was a 5-star guy from 2025 who said basically like this, it's Calipari University. I just moved to a different house or whatever. And people were upset about that. Like Kentucky fans were real upset about that, saying this just shows you that he thinks he's bigger than the program, whatever. No, it just shows you that he is one of the best recruiters to ever do this. And his biggest sell right away is himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter if he's at Kentucky or Memphis or UMass or Arkansas or wherever. He's still him. And then he gets to bring kids in here and show off Arkansas, which has got one of the best, home court advantages in the country and top-notch facilities and a war chest of NIL to go along with it. So it's a pretty nice combination. And if Kentucky fans want to beat their chest about that and think that statement means something, fine. Guess what Arkansas fans think? Nothing. They don't care. They love getting Nelly Davis and Jonas Adu in 24 hours. So we'll see after they get the next one because it's coming.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, Cal's a guy that moves differently, that's got a presence in every room, city, state, building, you name it, every one that he walks in. It's just it's a different animal, man. And it's taken some getting used to, but yeah, he just moves different. That's all I can go from. Like you're contacting 70 guys in the portal in the matter of like 10 or 12 days to like you're only talking to Kadari Richmond or Adu, or you're secretly flying out to see Nelly Davis and you secretly had him on campus. Like this Nelly Davis recruitment, we're going to have to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like one of these days, like he quietly flew out to see him or went to go visit. And then Nelly's just like, all right, I'm going to quietly visit too. Okay. Like,
yeah,
Nelly was like, I'm not about posting that C4 breakfast, but
boy.
Like I'll come on the visit if I don't have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait until the first time we get to interview Nelly Davis and ask him about this recruitment. In fact, if you're listening, and boy, we hope you are, hop on the show. You have an open invite. Slide in the DMs. Chances are I'm going to slide into yours to see if you want to do this or not. But we want to talk to you, man. And the fans do too. But I would just love to hear that story and kind of how it all went down here.
Mm-hmm.
You got a shout out for your lyric drop and your t-shirt, by the way. And I think right? That's, yeah.
Shout out to my boy Evan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
had to I got a Maren Morris t-shirt. Maybe I'll wear that tomorrow. The bones get even stronger with another commit tomorrow. That's not a news drop, by the way.
right. Yeah. Who knows? It is kind of funny that a lot of people are like, oh, got to get DJ Wagner on campus. Got to have him on campus this week. For all we know, he might have already been on campus. I mean, I'm not saying that like hint, hint, wink, wink, but I didn't know that Johnell Davis was here. And if you think
Yeah,
about, DJ Wagner, he allegedly has been, over at USC and nothing's been said about it. No interviews, no reports, no pictures, no nothing. So who knows? Maybe he's already been here. Maybe Cal's been out to see him. Nothing would surprise me at this point. This man, like you said, he moves in silence and he moves different. So all bets are off, man. There's no telling. Where's Cal right now? Who knows?
I don't know. I told you the other day, dude. I think he gets his work done during business hours, and then he goes home, kicks his loafers off, crosses his legs, has a nice scotch, and he sits in the living room with no TV, and he just basks in the action that he just made happen.
Yeah.
That's what I think he's doing.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Mike Perkins says, got to stop doing this at night. I can't sleep. Neither can I, bud. Neither can I. Neither can we.
Yeah.
It's worth it, though. I'm seeing a lot of JT Toppin love in this chat. Yeah. I mean, that dude.
Y'all should have seen us when we put his tape on the first time today. It was nuts.
That dude is nasty. No relation, as I understand it, to all the other Toppins that we know about.
Yeah, that was an upset.
Yeah, my goodness. Mountain West Freshman of the Year at New Mexico tournament team. Just had some nasty double-doubles, setting records for field goal percentage and rebounds and offensive rebounds and block shots for a freshman in that program. He would be a lot of fun. I think that with the early, I think it was Trilly maybe that said some of the early teams on it. Seems like a lot of Texas flavor there, but it's still early. I mean, you never know. I'm sure that that's a guy Arkansas would like to get involved with if you're looking for a 4-man. So hopefully they get in on that because that dude is good. And I think about the names that we've listed, and it's kind of hard for me to put a pecking order on them because like I'd be happy. Like you tell me Arkansas get JT Toppin, I'd be through the moon. Kason Pryor, completely different kind of player. I couldn't be happier. Be a great fit. Omier seems like a pipe dream, but same thing. Like it'd be a great fit. Any of those guys, and so we'll see how it shakes out. But I would imagine we're going to start hearing some things heating up on that front here pretty soon. Let's go through just a couple more, and we'll get out of here. Yeah, I think some people are agreeing with us on the need for a wing shooter. They got some guys who can knock down shots. So like Boogie's he's a very good shooter. You just never know for sure how well it's going to translate for a true freshman. But he's a very capable shooter. Nelly Davis, a dude who shot over 40%. Big Z is a guy who I think is going to be able to knock down some threes for you as a stretch guy. It's not going to be a lot of high volume, but he's got some of that to him, and they're going to continue to get some guys. It's not going to be like a, Coach Muss 28% and making 5.1 threes per game kind of situation.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, I hope not.
Okay, so you have to pick a starting 5 right now. Who are you rocking with?
Just out of the guys that they have, out of the 6, I think I go Boogie, Nelly, Carter Knox, Big Z, Jonas Adu, and I'd bring.
I think the only, I think that's. I mean, I think the only difference that we have is like I might start Billy Richmond because I think the physicality in New Jersey is going to have him ready from day one. But again, Carter Knox, doing the OTE thing, and he not unfamiliar with it. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I could go either way. I saw that was a comment, but I think I would start Billy Richmond right away. Just kind of see it. It would be nice to like. I've got to get out of this must thinking too. Like you can look down at the bench and see a guy that can just go get you some offensively. I just weed it out. But that's kind of the thinking.
It's a tough transition to make.
Yeah, Carter Knox isn't a bad first guy off your bench as of right now.
Yeah, and I also like the Billy Richmond idea too because I think he's probably further along defensively right now,
Sure.
which is good. Carter Knox, I think, is probably the better shooter, even though he's not a knockdown guy yet, at least. So, but I don't know, man. I like the size on both of them. The 6'6", 226 on Knox really strikes me. That might be a 6'6", 215 to 220 by the time the season starts, but a little bit leaner and more explosive.
Yeah.
Either way, I think you're in a decent spot with those guys.
Absolutely.
I wonder if any of them can do some small ball type stuff. Like if you're trying to go 4 guard, around a Big Z or around a Jonas Adu, with their size and length and physicality. It's tough to ask for a freshman though.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Probably depend on who else they got. Let's see. So a few people asking about Battle. I feel like that ship is sailed. I don't know how well that would of a fit that would be now, honestly. I don't think they're going to have any of those dudes back.
Yeah, I would be surprised by that.
Sure.
Although he does keep posting pictures or videos of himself in an Arkansas uniform, but it's just been super quiet on the potential return to Arkansas front anyway.
Right. Some people are asking about the bag for Nelly Davis. I don't know. And quite honestly, like people who say they know and they're throwing out numbers out, it's speculative. They don't know. 1.2, 1.3, 1.85, 5 million. It ain't our money. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's enough, apparently. So, but you always wonder about that. And it's, I even said it earlier, like by not paying Brandon Garrison allegedly $800,000 or whatever he's getting to go to Kentucky, that's that much money you have left. If you need to up the ante a little bit for certain guys or just distribute it completely elsewhere for a bigger position of need or whatever. So it's kind of crazy it's transfer portal, college basketball, but it's also like NBA free agency and salary cap. And I don't know. It's just a weird time.
For sure.
How you feeling about Trezarian White being out on Arkansas? Not crazy about it either, man.
Yeah, that's what I was like. He's going to be either really good for Chris Jans or he's going to be Emmanuel Miller's replacement at TCU.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't like, and I kind of get it in terms of, is Trezarian White a great defender? No, he's not a great defender. So that almost makes me want to almost take Baylor out of the equation. But you'd have to defend too to go, play for Jans. And so I don't know. I'm not saying that he's like immune to defending, but TCU seems like a really good fit. And hey, that's the home state.
Right.
That's the home state. And maybe you go play for Jamie Dixon. Who knows? I think he'd be a great Emmanuel Miller replacement. I really do. That kid's been around for a freaking decade. But
right. For sure. All right. Well, what do you think? Should we get out of here?
I'm good with it.
Yeah. I think we get out of here, but a big night. Still technicalities involved. Got to withdraw from the draft process and everything like that. I don't think he's officially signed yet, but good stuff. Good stuff for the Razorbacks. All right. Ready to get out of here, brother?
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Cool.
Go. You got to go watch The Sopranos.
Yeah, I got to get through it, man. Absolutely got to get through it. So, all right. Well, hey, appreciate everybody for tuning in on this late evening. Fun stuff, good times, but we will catch you guys real soon because I'm sure the news is going to keep on coming. And if it's not a commitment, another one in the next couple of days, we'll hop on because it looks like we got a lot of other stuff to talk about now that this roster is starting to take shape. So, Scottie, Bordelon, it's been Curtis Wilkerson with Natty State Sports. Appreciate you guys. It's been the Pot the Palace, and we will catch you guys soon.